On behalf of the Mississippi Delta Chinese Heritage Museum, we're proud to do this marker in honor of Sam Chu Lin.
We're here today to unveil a marker for Sam Chu Lin. He started his career at WJRP, went to California, got on with CBS.
The marker for Sam Chu Lin, a great watershed for Mississippi history. Born in Greenwood, moved to Greenville. His interest, unlike most Chinese here in Mississippi, was in broadcasting. He was an inspiration. You should pursue your dreams. He had a presence before Connie Chung.
Good morning, it's the weekend, and this is the top of the news. Tonight, an explosion and fire.
He was the first Asian. His contemporaries were Walter Cronkite.
Sam Chu Lin reports.
Sam Chu Lin tells us about it. I'm Sam Chu Lin, and right behind me is the Golden Gate Bridge.
He became a nationally prominent journalist. He reported on some significant events.
The fall of Saigon. Sam reporting from the CBS New York Bureau.
I actually grew up with Sam Chu Lin under the laws of discrimination. He broke a lot of barriers. He also pointed the way toward focusing on the anti-Asian hate that was going on. Sam contacted me to help with local contacts for his 1999 coverage of the Wen Ho Lee case. That was in New Mexico. Wen Ho Lee was accused of spying for China. His stories informed, motivated, and provoked us to action.
He really wanted to get the message out about the Chinese in the Delta. He was just somebody that you knew was destined to go on to do great things. He just had a presence about him.
The history of Chinese Americans is very limited, not recognized very often. And we thought this was an opportunity, particularly in Mississippi, to bring forward the history of what Chinese Americans have done.
Helen Sit and myself went to San Antonio to see what it was all about, because they were having a retreat. So we met a lot of people. And we came back, discussed that we would like to open a lodge. And so we decided that August Sidney would be the first president. I was the vice president. Helen Sit was the grand rep. And so we decided upon September 9th, 2000. And the place that we were chartered, a Hunan restaurant. Nancy G was the grand president. Munson Kwok came, several dignitaries from Houston Lodge were there. C.A.C.A Food was there too, I think. So we started as being a social group.
In the beginning, the group is small, so we just kind of meet at Audrey Senior House. But when the staff member kind of expanded, so I said, oh, okay, I have party room in my restaurant. Once a month, I can let you use that place. For me, I'm pretty much like an outsider. I don't know anybody. I don't have any family here. So I can meet all the Chinese people all around in the Delta area. We kind of become like a good friend, family, and to help each other.
My grandparents came to Mississippi like thousands of other Chinese families because they believed they could succeed here. It didn't have to be San Francisco or New York City. They preached the American dream, that hard work would produce good results.
Being Chinese, we are the very minority in this area. We're neither white nor black, we're just stuck in the middle. Our mission here is to get people involved with the Chinese community. We've been here in the Delta over 100 years. Most of the families here have always been in the grocery business or either the Chinese food business. My family was involved in both of those. We've had Chinese restaurant here, and we also had grocery stores, which that was my father's calling. We used to have a grocery store on almost every corner, and now we're just down to maybe 2 or 3. We used to have over 200 people here in Greenville. Now we're down to just a few families. People have changed. Everybody's moved out west. There's not hardly that many families left here, but you know, some of us are still here and we're still raising our kids, our grandkids.
We have worked with the Chinese Heritage Museum. We've worked to get several historical markers put up.
We get a lot of tourists come through Mississippi for the blues, for the history. People want to see Mississippi and not just hear about it and go by the stereotypes. We live here, we're proud to be from Mississippi, and we want to share that story, and the marker is just one way to do that.
The historical markers are important. I usually stop by to read them because they tell you the story of the people that settled there and what their contributions have been.
There was a big push for historic markers on Mississippi. Mississippi discovered that bringing awareness to the culture and the history here in Mississippi was a big business. From my recollection, the Chinese could not be buried in the white cemetery. The Chinese locally bought the property.
They were segregated. We had to have our own cemetery. One of the people who was very involved in that was Frank Chu Lin, who is Sam Chu Lin's grandfather.
There are a lot of Chinese that are buried there because of the paper son situation. Their families do not know where they are. That always intrigued me, that always bothered me, and I wanted to bring awareness to that cemetery. So that's when I came up with the idea for that marker.
It's more for our children to come back and say, hey, this is part of who I was and this is part of what my family did. There was also the historical marker for the Chinese mission at First Baptist Church.
We went to the Chinese mission, which was a safe haven for the Chinese.
Because we were working constantly every day, probably from sun up until maybe 10 o'clock at night. But we were able to take a break on Sunday afternoon and gather and have some social time with each other. The Chinese people felt more comfortable if they had somewhere where they could gather together on their own. And we were fortunate that there were leaders of the church who were missionaries to us. They helped us to develop self-confidence. We learned about the Christian religion. It gave us an opportunity to develop some of our talents like singing and being able to get up in front of a crowd and speak. I think it gave us a lot of self-confidence by being involved at the church.
We've also worked with creating a dragon boat festival, and that's been going off and on for several years.
I spent a lot of time as a child and a young person water skiing and fishing on the lake. So when I became mayor, I was looking for things that we could do to take advantage of that natural resource and try to revitalize downtown. We used to have boat races. Well, what can we do to bring some of that back? Looking on the internet, and I came across something called a dragon boat festival. I contacted a good friend of mine who was in my high school graduating class, Helen Yee Hong. Started talking to her. Next step was the C.A.C.A, which I'd never heard of.
This is historic for Greenville, Mississippi, and for the Chinese associations, our Chinese people here, and our children, so they can see the history of us. So I said, let's do it.
It took several months for it to kind of come together. We had to raise money to buy the boats, and then we had to find the teams to put in them. I think we had maybe 20 boats the first time around, and you had to have 20 in each boat.
Spent half our time teaching each other techniques. We would go to the public library and we would sit in chairs, act like we were paddling and paddling together.
I'll never forget the first race. It was 2014, and it was a beautiful, hot July, August day. Perfect thing to be on the lake. We had several different races because you had more than one heat. You'd have a couple of heats in order to kind of work yourself down to who would go be the final.
You just don't realize how much energy that you use to try to paddle together and try to just make it to the end of the race.
You can wear yourself out trying to paddle about, I think it was 300 yards.
One of the biggest things it did was bring the community together. People from everywhere, like rich, poor, different colors or whatever. It was a friendly competition and people remembered each other. They would say hi to each other on the street, you know. Hey, yeah, boy, that was a great race, wasn't it? You know, they talk about it. In fact, they still talk about it.
It carried on like that for the next 2 years or 3 years that we did it. It was something that everybody looked forward to.
Also, we did a free event down on the levee front where we had the Dragon Boat Festival. We had a stage set up. A lot of the performers from the night before or from Thursday night would come out on Saturday so that the entire community could experience it. And it was about bringing the culture in and letting people from the greater community learn more about the Chinese culture. We've been very lucky to have a lot of different cultures participate in our essay contest. We have had an African American win the essay contest in Mississippi from the Mississippi Lodge.
And we had the opportunity to go and pay our respects to our loved ones who have passed on. The sacrifices that they made enduring the discrimination that they had to go through, the hard work that they had to put in, the long hours, the children that they had to raise that were not able to go to the regular public school, and we had to go to a segregated one-room Chinese school. We treasured the fact that they engendered in us a respect for our heritage.
When I think about the Chinese Museum and what we have done so far, I think it's something Sam would have been very proud of.
Chinese in the South, to many people, is an anomaly, a puzzle. Our families were here from the turn of the century and on, and so we're trying to capture and preserve that history to do the things that put us forward in a positive way. The things that tell the story of the Chinese and what they've done, but not only what they've done, but what we're doing, and as we exist in society today.
I'd like to think that my grandfather, more than anyone else, would appreciate the symbolism of this moment had he lived to see it. But the story, which began at his birth in the village of Five Blessings in China before the turn of the century, the story which he spent many hours to write down in Chinese characters in the back of a Mississippi store, but the same story should be updated by his grandson 93 years after it all started. In English, on television, in America. In San Francisco, this is Sam Chu Lin, News Center 4.
Gone too soon at age 67, Sam's legacy lives on. Asian American journalists, increased in number now, stand on his shoulders and now are able to go through the door of opportunity that Sam Chu Lin opened. Thank you.
So it was a little over a 3-year project.
Are you ready?
C.A.C.A, Mississippi Delta Chinese Heritage Museum, and the city of Greenville partnered to make the location correct and appropriate. The wording was approved, cast in Ohio, and then shipped to Mississippi, and then the city of Greenville erected the sign. He'll be remembered with this marker, and it'll be there after we're all gone.